Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Fantasy Daily on this September 30th, episode 2 for the day. So this is episode 23 of Fantasy Daily. You're getting the double dose here on Thursday because my audio equipment failed me yesterday. So I am back for this second edition of show. If you guys haven't seen the trade show that I dropped this morning, go ahead and check that out. I go through a bunch of players that are high on the list of people who have been, asking me questions. Do I trade this guy? What do I do with this guy? So my takes of those 20 guys and where I feel about them are on that show. So if you want to check that out, you got a lot of trade questions of your own, go ahead and check that show out for me. And I got a fun one for you here. This is the Thursday show, so this is the normal Thursday show. We're going to go through news. I'm going to recap the lineup versus lineup that if you guys checked out the trade show in week 3 when my co-host Manny was here, he's special guest on that show. We did a lineup versus lineup, so I'll review that. Then we'll go over Thursday Night Football, and I got some Thursday Night props for you. So props is a big thing this year that I like. I know a lot of people have done FanDuel in the past, and me personally, I like FanDuel. I don't drop as much money into FanDuel as I used to because I like to play my fantasy in my regular league. FanDuel is more of like if I don't have somebody in fantasy and I can't fit him in anywhere, I'll just go get him on FanDuel and play him in that league and then build a lineup based around just really one guy that I think is going to go off that week. So besides that, prop bets are really the fun thing for me right now, the over and unders. So if you guys, you're into that kind of weekend gambling, that kind of daily fantasy stuff and whatnot, go ahead and check out prop bets. There's a couple apps that you can check out. I'm a big fan of them. I throw like $5-10 in there, and I'm already up like $70 off of just doing $1, $2, $5 bets. So they're really fun. They're really easy. All you need to get is 3 out of 5 right in order to win money, and some of them are really easy. So we'll talk about the ones that I think are easier for tonight, ones that I think are locks. And I'm probably not going to call them locks anymore because that's a really difficult thing to predict. And people get super angry when you say lock and it's not a lock. So I'll just tell you what I'm feeling. But let's get right into the news. We got a good amount of news today. Some good news, some bad news. Mike Zimmer says that he's still unsure if Cook will play this week. They play against Cleveland. If Cook doesn't play, I'd still fire him up. Cook was at practice today. He said himself that he feels good and that he thinks he will be able to play. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's not up to him. It's up to the team and all the doctors over there and everything. But Dalvin Cook is trending towards playing, which is good. And even though he's playing Cleveland, I would still fire him up. I'm very skeptical on Madison after that. Once Dalvin Cook gets back in there, you can basically relegate Alexander Madison. But if you are the person who happened to pick up Alexander Madison and benefit off of him last week, I would still hang on to him. Having a handcuff for somebody like Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison is one of the higher ranked handcuffs. So I remember, the first day that Dalvin Cook was announced out, I was thinking, oh, well, Amir Abdullah did get some carries. Nope, they went right back to Alexander Madison and made him the bell cow. So that was nice to see. We can still count on Alexander Madison. So if you were the guy who happened to pick him up, go ahead and grab him. Deandre Hopkins was back at practice. That's good news for all the Nook owners. I know a lot of people were worried about him last week and his potential, and I'm not worried about it, DeAndre Hopkins at all. Sunday is not looking good for Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. I would still try to avoid the Tennessee wide receivers here if I can. I know a lot of people are talking about Chester Rogers and the new guy. I think his name is Holbrook. But either one of those, I kind of don't really want to jump in on, especially if both of those guys are out because we don't know who it is. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Westbrook-Ikhine, he had 4 targets, 4 catches, and a touchdown last week. Gave him the 13-30 score. Chester Rogers didn't do that well. He had the 2 targets, but he had the touchdown. So Chester Rogers seems to be somebody that, sneaks in every now and then, but I do think that Westbrook-Ikhine is the guy that you're going to want over Chester Rogers if you're looking at what can you benefit off of A.J. Brown and Julio Jones being out. So if you have to start one of them, I go Westbrook-Ikhine. And Antonio Brown is back at practice, so if you're the Antonio Brown manager, be happy. You can definitely fire him up in this game. It's Antonio Brown. He played for the Patriots. This is what Tom Brady does. He's probably going to go in there and just throw to Gronk and AB, I think. Like, obviously, Godwin and Evans, they're going to have their games. You start them, but just knowing how Tom Brady plays, it feels like he'll do something like that where he wants Antonio Brown and Gronk to score in New England the last time he might play there, something like that. You know what I mean? So just Brady doing whatever he wants, and I'm going to bet on Brady. So if Antonio Brown, I have him, I want to try to squeeze him into my lineup. Gerald Everett moved to IR, so he's going to miss 3 weeks. I know he was a streamer for some people. He had a good game last week. Week 3. I think it was the week that he put up like 10 points or something. He had an okay week, so he moved into the streaming category. Now he's out. He's moved to IR for 3 weeks. James White moved to IR. They're saying his season's over. Likely it is over. Now, the implications off of this is that people start to look at Damian Harris, and I know a lot of people, I got the question, if Damian Harris a running back too now that James White is gone? No, it's the same. I think it's the same thing that I said last week on the trade show about Damian Harris and James White, where, you're going to be victimized by the New England backfield. So Damian Harris is going to have his games, and the games that Damian Harris has his games, he's probably going to be on your bench, because that's really what happens with these New England running backs. They're so unpredictable. It's so hard to tell what Bill Belichick's going to do within the day. And we saw a lot of Brandon Bolden after James White went out. So Damian Harris had a bad game. They ran Brandon Bolden a lot. So I don't think this is going to be a James White is gone, so now you can fire up Damian Harris. I think it's still going to be the same snafu that we've seen there for a while. And if I have a New England running back, it's the same deal as it's been for the past couple of years. I really don't want any part of that. So yeah. Antonio Gibson, he did not practice today, so monitor that. He was downgraded from his practicing yesterday. He said he didn't participate today, which would happen because I said earlier on the show that you can drop J.D. McKissic because he was the clear backup. So, of course, now that I said that, Gibson's not practicing today all of a sudden. So, if you still have McKissic, keep an eye on him. If he's out there on the waiver wire, keep an eye on him, because if Gibson doesn't play, I definitely would like to throw in McKissic. Darius, Slayton, and Sterling Shepard not looking good for Sunday. They said they were just working with trainers this morning. So the implications off of this, obviously, we want Kenny Golladay to show up. I hope that Kenny Golladay does finally show up. So I think that the consensus kind of moved towards like, oh, Kadarius Toney, remember him, the first-round draft pick? Maybe it's his time to shine. And I did happen to see one video that circulated where Kadarius Toney was criminally not targeted in the game. He was really open on a lot of plays, and he just was not targeted. So sometimes they fall under the radar like that, and hopefully that Daniel Jones and the Giants notice that and they use him more. But when you're looking at when you're looking at targets alone, Colin Johnson is an interesting name to look at. He had 7 targets last week after the injury, so it looks like Colin Johnson will be integrated in there as well. So if you're somebody who's high on Kadarius Toney, I would temper my expectations just because of the Colin Johnson stat line last week. I do think that if Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton miss, Kadarius Toney is an interesting daily fantasy look, but besides that, I really don't care too much about playing these guys. They're playing New Orleans. I think Marshawn Lattimore is back. Not 100% sure, but it's one of those things where I really don't want to trust the wide receivers over there, but if you are analyzing it and I had to pick one, I think I would pick Colin Johnson over Kadarius Toney just because of the targets that we got last week. Darrell Henderson had a limited practice, so keep an eye on that as well. I do believe that Darrell Henderson is somebody who I want to keep on my team long run. I think he's going to be utilized a lot in that offense, but definitely keep an eye on that. I don't think I really want to play Sony Michel this week. If he's out, I'd probably still look elsewhere, but I'm hoping that Darrell Henderson can get on the field this week. Marlon Mack is seeking a trade from Indy. He's doing it very gentlemanlike. He's just saying, listen, I understand you guys are rolling with Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor. I want to go somewhere else and be able to play. So Marlon Mack looking to get out of Indianapolis. He really wants to get that playing time. He feels like he's up for it. Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor are just too good. And you can understand that, especially if you're a player and you're in the league and you're watching these two people, get the work and they're succeeding and you're kind of just hanging out there now that you're back and you feel like you're ready to go. Makes sense. So trade deadline's 5-6 weeks away, something like that. So Marlon Mack's trying to see if he can start getting something moving. And that's all I got for news. Those are the injuries. We'll cover more on that later. Saturday's really my big injury wrap-up show where I try to cover all the injuries in all the games in hopes that we get, a big, push out on that. And then Sunday morning, I'll be doing a show right before the game for final ins and outs and stuff like that and starts of the weeks. And that's it. So, got a quick question for us today. This was one that I actually got quite a bit this morning, so it seems like this is a player that sneaked through on waivers, and now they're wondering if they can drop one of their lower-end guys for this prospect piece, and that's Zach Moss out of Buffalo. So, Zach Moss was on my running back list of waivers that you can go and get, and I do like the pickup of Zach Moss depending on who you're dropping in order to get him. Like if you have a Ronald Jones or something like that, Latavius Murray, Tyson Williams, I would definitely rather have a Zach Moss. But the question that I got was, do I grab Zach Moss, like being worried about Devin Singletary? Is Zach Moss the running back to own in Buffalo? And while I do agree that Zach Moss is the better running back in Buffalo over Devin Singletary, I just don't see a reality where Zach Moss completely takes over the one role to the point where it's worth fantasy value at that level. So I don't think it's like a Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon situation where both of them are going to be valuable. I still think that one person is going to have 1 week where the other person will not subsequently. But me personally, Zach Moss is like a speculative ad for me. He's somebody that I'll take, put on my bench, see what happens. If I have to start him, I will. But as far as that goes, Buffalo's really a pass-first team. And, Josh Allen can move the ball whenever he wants down the field. His wide receivers are, showing up. Emmanuel Sanders looks electric. Stephon Diggs is Stephon Diggs. So, me personally, the answer to the question is Zach Moss the Buffalo back to own? The answer is yeah, but I'm not expecting a Kareem Hunt level of production out of him at any point in time. I'm never, expecting Zach Moss to become this big running back that I'm putting into my flex and my running back too. So, I'll add him as the speculative ad, and I think if Devin Singletary, happens to go down, knock on wood, then Zach Moss would get a lot more carries. But I believe that even in an offense where Zach Moss is by himself, it's not a huge back to own, being that Buffalo is the offense that they are. So I get it, but I don't know how many rushing touchdowns he's going to get without a breakaway. All the touchdowns seem to be Josh Allen's, whether they're passing or rushing. So it's tough for me to say. I would say, yes, he's worth putting on my team. He's worth rostering, but I wouldn't set my expectations that I just got a good flex play running back 2 throughout the year. I don't know about that. So I would definitely still rather have a Nyheim Hines over Zach Moss any day. So those are the news. That's the question that I got asked a lot this morning that I wanted to cover real quick. And we are going to get right into Thursday Night Football, which I'm actually pretty excited about. Excuse me, sip time. So, Thursday Night Football, number one rule. I'm going to repeat it 1,000 times this year. I'm going to say it every single game. And I want you to tell your friends. I want you to tell everybody. I want you to say it in your sleep. Get your Thursday players out of the flex spot. This is a number one rule throughout the fantasy community. You're going to hear all of us say it. You don't put Thursday players in your flex spot. Your lineup with a flex spot is not a ranking system. You're not showing us where you rank these players by putting Davante Adams at the top and then the rest of your wide receivers in succession. If Davante Adams plays on a Monday night, he's going in my flex spot. God forbid something happens, I have that opportunity to move around. Obviously, 90% of the time, it's not a concern. But that 10% of the time will save you a week. Get your Thursday night players out of the flex spot. Whoever plays the latest, that's who goes in your flex spot. And you wait till Sunday comes to move stuff around. But get them out of your flex spot. So Thursday Night Football, do that. Also, T. Higgins is out again. We already knew that. We talked about that yesterday. Or we talked about it this morning because I can't get my audio right. But T. Higgins is out. I do think this could go two ways. It could either be a snooze fest or Burrow lights him up. And I'm kind of hoping that this is a game where Burrow lights up Jacksonville, has an awesome primetime game. And it's going to be exciting to watch these two guys. The rematch of the 2019 championship, or it might have been 2020. Yeah, 2019 championship. Burrow over Lawrence in that game. Could be Burrow over Lawrence again. And this could be a rivalry that we watch for some years to go. Burrow and Lawrence can be those two names that get stuck together. So I'm excited for this one. This should be a fun one to watch. The Jacksonville side of the ball, we got Trevor Lawrence looking to avoid his 4th straight loss in the NFL. If he loses this game, it would tie for his collegiate and high school career for the amount of times that he lost. I think he's something like a ridiculous 86-4 in his college and high school career. So if he comes to the NFL, loses this game right here, he'll have matched all of his losses for his high school and collegiate career. So Trevor Lawrence, welcome to the NFL and welcome to being the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars and really Urban Meyer's team right now. Not for nothing, Urban, you're not impressive. So Trevor Lawrence looking to avoid his 4th straight loss. I definitely would not play him in this game. I do not want any part of Trevor Lawrence, even in deeper leagues. Marvin Jones is someone I'm willing to start in this one. I do think that he'll be, heavy targeted in this one by Trevor Lawrence, and I think that his, just absolute, being a beast with being Marvin Jones, he'll be able to put up some points on Cincinnati. So I like Marvin Jones in this one. I'm willing to start him. And it's nice to see if you get points in your wide receiver position before going into Sunday, you get a feel of like where you are. So I do like that for Marvin Jones. DJ Shark for me is a desperation play. I'm willing to play him if I have to, or if you're one of those people who's, looking at your bench and you're like, I'm not sure who to throw into my wide receiver 3 spot. I can throw DJ Shark in there. I get it. If he's on your, bench and you're up in the air about 2 or 3 people and you want to know the points before Thursday, he's got a good matchup. The game could easily go to DJ Shark instead of Marvin Jones. So I'm willing to play him as a desperation play. Laviska Shenault, I'm out on him. I don't really want to play him. He's not got the targets that I want to see. He's not got the work that I want to see him playing against Cincinnati. I think there's a good chance that Trevor Lawrence struggles. Not saying that Cincinnati is a great defense. I just think that Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville is that dysfunctional right now. James Robinson, I do have confidence in this game starting him. I feel like his targets will be there. I'm going to be in Robinson's corner after this week if he has a good game, to tell you the truth. I was really low on Robinson, but if he comes away in this game, gets those 7 to 8 targets like I'm hoping he will, then I'm probably going to start rising on James Robinson and saying, okay, this might be a safety valve for Trevor Lawrence that you need to use, but I think the big problem with James Robinson is Urban Meyer wanting Carlos Hyde to be involved, which I just don't understand. I mean, the stat line for Carlos Hyde isn't bad, but I just think team-wise and play-wise, the team would be so much better if they ran with James Robinson the majority of the game. So, and I don't even mean just run the ball with him more of the time. I mean, just having his presence on the field, getting him more involved and getting him those passes out of the backfield. I think they're better off. So hopefully that does happen. Hopefully Urban Meyer moves away from Carlos Hyde, gets James Robinson a little bit more involved, and we see those targets, because if those targets go up, then he's going to be super valuable in fantasy, especially for the value that he is now. You could buy him wicked cheap for basically nothing and have a great, flex spot with running back 2 upside. So I do hope he plays well in this game. Yeah, after last week's performance, I'm definitely willing to roll with him, hoping he gets the targets. Dan Arnold got traded to Jacksonville, so that was a question, is Dan Arnold a streamer? And right now, I'm not sure, and I'm not willing to roll him out and take the chance in this game. I get it, it's on a Thursday, so you're like, let me see what happens before then, because all the other streamers on the waiver wire aren't great. I would really try to move somewhere else. Like, I would in a heartbeat start Jared Cook over Dan Arnold, even though I don't really care for Jared Cook. So, tough for me. I don't want to start Dan Arnold. But yeah, he's a wait and see for me. So I do think Jacksonville gets beat up in this game. Cincy, we're moving on to them. Joe Burrow, I think he might have a good game in this one. I'm not going to start him in my 10, 12-man leagues, but if you have a double quarterback league or a deeper league and you really need something, I think Joe Burrow might be a sneaky start in this game that gets the 21 points to hit you on an average going into the weekend. So in deep leagues, I definitely roll him out. I'm absolutely in love with Jamar Chase in this one and in real life. I think Jamar Chase he's going to be something great coming soon, man. And it might already happen, but man, do I love Jamar Chase. I traded a lot of picks in my dynasty league to have the 102, I think it was, to get Jamar Chase. And here it comes. So, I mean, I wasn't always in the corner. I wasn't high on Jamar Chase. I won't take the victory lap, but is one of those people that I was hoping would pop off, and it seems like he is now. He seems like he's Boyd's favorite target, and he's always being targeted in the red zone, and he's playing great. I can't say enough good things about Jamar Chase, especially since the beginning of the season, people were kind of ragging on him, made that comment about not seeing the ball, which was taken completely out of context. That if you hadn't heard, he was asked specifically how the ball is different from college to football, and he said, well, it's a little bit different, more difficult to see because of the stripes on it. I don't have the stripes to see. And people ran with that, saying that he can't catch the ball because of that, and that's what he said. No, he was asked that question, and that was his answer to it. So I think that was taken out of context a little bit, but yeah, I love Jamar Chase, especially in this game. I'm trying to trade for Jamar Chase in a couple leagues. I have him in my Dynasty League. I'm super stoked. He's in my lineup. I'm excited to see him tonight. So I think he has a great game. Tyler Boyd, I think he's definitely worth a start if you need him in this game because of T. Higgins being out. Jamar Chase obviously can't take every single target, so I think Tyler Boyd is, worth a play in this game, and he should be getting the 5, 6, 7 targets at least. So hopefully another red zone target for him. I also love Joe Mixon in this game. He's a must start for me here. I think that there's a very real possibility that this entire game could go Joe Mixon's way and he could get loaded up with rushes, loaded up with targets, and we might see one of those vintage games from Joe Mixon that we've been waiting for so long where he puts up 30 points. So I love Joe Mixon in this game. He's a must start for me here. The tight ends, I'm all set. I don't want no tight ends in this. I don't trust it. So I just don't. Yeah, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon are the ones that I want to play in this game, and I'm willing to start Joe Burrow if I have to. So quick recap. Lawrence, I'm out. Marvin Jones, I want to play. DJ Shark is a desperation play. James Robinson, I do want to play. I don't want to play Dan Arnold. Joe Burrow, I'm willing to. Jamar Chase, I want to get into my lineup. Tyler Boyd, I'm willing to play him, but he's higher up. He's not one of those people where if I had Tyler Boyd and DJ Shark, it's Tyler Boyd and it's not close. Tyler Boyd, I'd play over probably Juju. Just trying to think of some other names, but yeah, I like Tyler Boyd for sure. So that's it. That's my Thursday recap. That's how I feel about those guys. I'm going to get right into my Thursday night props, some easy ones that I saw for you guys. Some ones that I thought were easy. Like I said, I'm not going to say locks anymore. I said that one time, and it bit me in the face. So I'm just going to do my Thursday night props that I feel confident about. You guys go ahead and check it out. Like I said, these props I think are a lot of fun doing the over-unders. It makes it a lot more intense when you're watching the games. FanDuel can kind of get away from you. You know what I mean? If one person scores a touchdown that you didn't predict was going to score a touchdown, you're out because somebody picked that guy, put him in their MVP flex spot, and now the game's over for you. You know what I mean? So whoever played Dalton Schultz last week with the Cowboys game in the super MVP spot, you won. It was over because he had 2 touchdowns. So no matter what, if Dalton Schultz wasn't in that, you had no chance. So that's why I like the over-under game. It's really more about you. You're playing by yourself. You're playing against yourself. So it's real fun. So let's go into my props for just Thursday night. Now, if there's anybody here, not a sponsor, I don't have any sponsors, but just want to throw it out. The app that I use for over-unders is called Prize Picks, and you're not allowed to use it in every state. I'm from Rhode Island, so I can use it in my state. Unfortunately, my brother, he lives in Indiana. I wanted to have him play it. I was even going to send him some money so I get the referral bonus. So you can't do it in every state. Sorry if it's in a state that you can't use it. Some states can't do sports books, so you can't bet on money lines or anything like that. I really don't care for parlays like that. I don't bet on spreads or money lines. I really just care about fantasy. I want to play fantasy football. I want to watch the game and be able to enjoy the games without diluting it too much. So I think fantasy football has that healthy medium for me where I can enjoy the games, but I can also play fantasy football and, that way. So let's get into Thursday night props. These are the ones that I like. These are actually the ones that I've already bet on. I already have this in my Prize Picks app. I've already bet on it. I've already locked it in. So we're going with Jamar Chase first. Now, number one, you can't pick one player more than twice on here, which kind of bummed me out because if you go on there right now, the James Robinson props, I think, are criminally underrated for him. And I understand that it's James Robinson, but the way that Prize Picks does their over-unders is they kind of take a consensus of the stats for the year and then really build an average off of that. So that's why it's really fun for me who plays fantasy and studies stats to really break down the analysis and be like, whoa, hold on. But this person played that defense and that defense, so that's why his stats are like this. I'll take the over on that. So I like to look at it through that scope. It's a lot more fun for me. So if there's anybody out there who's never tried props, that's how it works. It's a lot of fun. So go ahead and check it out if you have some money to blow and you want to have some extra fun on Thursday night. That's my favorite part is the single games. A lot of fun. So Jamar Chase is my first one. They have him at 4.5 receptions, whether you take the over under. Now, Jamar Chase, let me go back real quick. I know that he's had not the best track record for targets. So yeah, he's target 7, 4, and then 5, and his receptions are 5, 2, and 4. But he got 4 touchdowns in those game spans. So I think this is the game where they really start hyper targeting him. He starts breaking out a lot more. He starts getting out a lot more. So 4.5 targets is a really good average, as you can see. The 5 receptions, 2 receptions, 4 receptions. They kept it right at that 4. So he needs to hit 5 receptions in order for you to take the over. And I took the over on that one. So I have the over. I think Jamar Chase is going to get 8 or 9 targets tonight. Hopefully he comes away with 5 of them and gives me that over on that one. The next name, James Robinson, like I said, there's a ton of props on that app that I think are really underrated for James Robinson, where they're saying he's going to get under this amount of yards, under this many catches, stuff like that. And so if you really want to exploit something on that app, I think the James Robinson props are really low and you could take the over no problem. So James Robinson, they have him for over, or they have him at 23.5 yards receiving. So I'm taking the over on that one. Last week, James Robinson got quite a bit of targets. He had 6 targets, 6 receptions for 46 yards. The first week he had 6 targets, 3 receptions. So he's averaging 5 targets a game, hitting that 6. If he hits it again tonight, which I think he can, if they keep him more involved and he's rolling out of the backfield and they need to dump it off, I think they will. So I'm taking the over on James Robinson's 23.5 yards receiving. Joe Mixon, same thing. They have him at 17.5 yards receiving as well. Now, Joe Mixon, he's only had 23 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards. So that's another one where it's like they went really low on this one, but I think by the game script, they played against Chicago, they played against Pittsburgh, they kind of got beat up in those games. So I really feel like Joe Mixon could return to form here and easily go over 17.5 receiving yards. So took the over on that one. Laviska Shenault, I have him under 41.5 receiving yards. So I feel like 41.5 receiving yards is for a third wide receiver on Jacksonville. It's probably going to be a breakaway play, but if he gets 2 receptions pretty close to the line, I think it'll be around 20 to 30 yards, which I really feel like that's Laviska's kind of, role right now. Couple catches or a deep bomb. So basically what I'm betting against is the deep pass in this one because I don't think he's going to get over 5 targets and come down with 3 of them for 42 yards. So I took the under on Laviska's 41.5 yards receiving. The last name I took was Marvin Jones. They have him for 65.5 receiving yards. I took the over on his receiving yards. Now, so far on the season, he has 77 yards receiving, 55 yards receiving, 62. So you can see where that 65.5 baseline hits. But he's had 9 targets, 11 targets, 8 targets, and he's also had 5 receptions, 6 receptions, 6 receptions. So he hasn't gone over 6 receptions. Playing against Cincinnati, I think this is another game where he can get like 10, 11 targets, 6 to 7 receptions, and easily go over that 65.5 mark because I think Marvin Jones is going to be super involved. So just reviewing, Chase, I have him over 4.5 receptions. James Robinson, I have him over 23.5 yards receiving. Joe Mixon, I have him over 17.5 yards receiving. I think he'll get 5 or 6 targets. Laviska Shenault, I have him under 41.5 receiving yards, betting against the breakaway play. And Marvin Jones, I have him over 65.5 yards receiving because I think he'll be heavy utilized from Trevor Lawrence this week. And that is my show. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you got Thursday players that you're promising about. Hopefully you got Jamar Chase. Hopefully you're excited for this game like I am. It's going to be a good game. I am super stoked, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to go watch the Britney Spears documentary on Netflix, and we will see you tomorrow. Take it easy.